Good afternoon, everybody. You can hear me loud and clear. Perfect. Thank you so much, guys, for coming. I think my session has started. Unfortunately, the projector doesn't work. I'm Darren Francis. I'm an author, and property investor. I hail from Mitchell's Plain, Dartford, to be more specific. I see one of my brothers from Dartford as well. And today I thought, what's the best way to deal across failing to my success? And I thought to myself, I'm in Mitchell's Plain. I'm going to do a session. I'm going to base my session on a paid session. So students who will be very time with me, and I will give them 4 or 5 sessions. And I thought, today, because I'm here, I'm going to give that session to you guys for absolutely. Okay? So, I'm going to rush through the audience and watching the time. I don't talk that much. But I'm going to delve a little bit in the book and then create a picture as to why you should get involved in property. Right? So, like I said, if you want to look at the slides, I will show you the slides. But let me talk about my journey as a son of the soil and property. So, as I said in my opening statement, I found a property, which is playing specifically. My life wasn't easy. I was at the cusp of joining a gang, getting involved in drugs. I was shot, I was scared out the barrel of the gun on 2 occasions, and life is tough. So, my brother over there can attest to the type of violence and things that we were exposed to. And being growing up in a community where people don't see it's very difficult to change your outlook from what you are being taught as a child. And what goes along with that was, as a child, I was quite chubby. In fact, I'm still chubby. So, but I was very humble. And people made fun of me. And I had a problem with my self-esteem. Always thought that I'm not good enough. And that was a perfect cocktail for gangsters and people that wanted to influence me to do the wrong things or to do their way. I was literally a poster child for that because I had zero self-esteem and I was being led by people. And I just wanted to belong somewhere. And there were times when things were very rough. We didn't have much. Both my parents, fortunately, growing up in Dartford, it wasn't easy. I had about seven friends, and today about 3 of them are still alive. Others were about 3 of them were shot in our community, and all of them passed away because of natural causes, because he was shot 3 years prior to that. And fortunately, I was one of the lucky ones that didn't only get out of Mitchell's Plain, or out of Dartford. But I got out of the low self-esteem that I had. the prison that I was living in, I managed to get out of that. How did I do that? And that was hard. That was when I got into it. When I started going to university, started getting my grades up, I saw there's more to life than gangsters and drugs. There's more to this world that we all doubt. And one day I met a gentleman by the name of Darren Francis. And he exercised the demons that I had, the low self-esteem. And he taught me a thing called cunning as doer. Cunning as doer, translation is basically can't, don't tell me you can't. And that was the day where I started believing in who I am and what I can do. Right? When I got my first job, it was amazing because now I'm thinking, hey, I'm making money. The thing that we all strive for is to get a job and make money. But a few years down the line, I am still poor. I'm still poor. My conditions, according to my job, has improved somewhat. But I'm still living in this way. I'm still caught up in the myopic vision of, just having a 9 to 5 and just doing, the thing that needs to be done. Being part of this train that just goes in one direction, and everyone's on there. Nobody wants to get off. Everyone is just on this train. And I knew there's more to life than just this. And that's when I met my wife. She worked in an auction company, and I wanted to do something, besides just working. And I always had this entrepreneurial spirit, and I followed it. And I knew when I met my wife and I saw this auctions happening and properties being sold for, at the time, 150,000 rand, and people coming in, swiping your card. Here you go. Jeez. Swiping profiting that much money. How's that possible? And that's where the curiosity and education began. Right? So after many years, I looked at a whole host of things. But the one secret, or the lesson that I've learned through all of the things that went wrong in my life and things that I've seen, I always ask myself the question: what is the one thing that's going to change everything for me? And the one common denominator was education. When I started on the journey of investing in property, before I started investing in property, I invested in education. Learning what informs my world. Why am I doing what I'm doing? Following that up by how am I going to do what I've now set out to do. Right? And I developed this property strategy. I watched this program, Flip to Flop. I'm not sure if you watched this, but this was my go-to program. Flip to Flop on DSTV. I recorded all the episodes, and I need to watch this thing, and it was very, very interesting. And I told myself, I need to find my great, and we were here, skills to give you guys up this. I didn't grow up with money. I didn't know money. I didn't know where to get money besides the bank. And I told my wife, this is the thing that I want to do. I want to do property, but where am I going to get property? And after a few years, I discovered flip flop, and I thought, this is how I'm going to generate enough cash to do what I want to do. And that's when my flipping journey started, right? I taught myself everything that I know about the property market. I never had a coach. I was a poster child for failure. The one thing, if I do one thing wrong, I would literally screw my family for the next 30 years. And I believed in the strategy that I developed. I believed in the education, the things that I was learning. I believed that was good. And I started doing market trends, following market trends, and doing my own market analysis. And I started predicting certain things in the market. And the following year, I see, wow, what I predicted last year actually came to fruition. The market is doing this, the market is doing that, and that's when I knew, hey, I'm onto something. And that's when my property journey started. I'm not sure if you guys can see, I got a photograph of the first property that I bought. Backstory, and my brother over there would know. The property that I bought was in Tafasa, an area that many people don't want to buy, right? Well, that's what a lot of people think or thought at that particular time. But I knew the market was busy changing. It's changing so much that a lot of the estate agents or agencies haven't seen the changes that is currently happening. And I bought this particular property. The only thing that was in this property that survived the onslaught of the gangsters and the sun that unfortunately plundered this house, destroyed this house, was a toilet. There was no bath, there was no door frames. You could stand by the front door and you could see through the walls, literally. Because they stole, as they forced out the electrical parts, the remnants of big vehicles. So you could see from the front door right through to the back door. Right? But the only thing that was left in that house was a door. Every metal piece, even the door frames, was gone. And I walked in there and people, my family, my mother, or my wife, everyone voting against this particular property. So much so, when people learned what happened in the property, people were even more afraid. Family members, I remember my mom went there once, but other family members didn't want to go there because the house owner, the previous owner, was murdered in that house. The son murdered her and threw in a bin. And I bought that house. But what did I see? Did I see the destruction? No. Everyone that walked in there, everyone saw the destruction, the pain, and the story that's behind it. But I saw opportunity. I saw the thing that I taught myself for many years coming together in this one particular project. I told myself, flip or flop, we are good to go. And a story that I shared in my book. I remember I needed the 160,000 rand for this property. Went to the bank, the valet came in and said, there's absolutely no way that you're going to get this money. This property, and I'm quoting you exactly, this property is not fit for human beings, let alone for my dog. And he stormed out of there and he said, you can do whatever you want, but you're not getting this property. And I did exactly what he said. I did whatever I wanted. After much fighting and much back and forth, I got granted this particular one, and I like when people tell me, you can't. I tell them, I'm going to show you. And long story short, we went on to sell this property. We fixed it up. I saved about 62,000 rand. We fixed it up. A lot of things went wrong. There was a lot of things that we needed to do. And lo and behold, the property is now on the market. So that same validator, I don't mention the bank's name, but he tells us he came back. He came back because the people that got the bond was from the home bank. And this validator saw me, he saw the property, and he was like, oh God, here we go. And he walks in. He stands at the front door, and I can see the disbelief on his face. He walks in, goes into every room. He stands in the kitchen. He's mesmerized by what I see. He walks out, he goes sits in his car, and I had to go to him and ask him, hey, what's wrong? Because he's doing this thing quite a few times. And he comes out again to just look one more time. This is now his third time going into the property. And he says, you know what? I can't believe that this is the same property that I told you is not fit for the owner. I can't believe what happened here. And our parting words were, he says that even if you ask more than what this property was sold for, we would grant you that because this property is not worth way more than what you asked. But at that particular time, the properties in that area were selling for about 360,000. But I knew the market was changing. I made a prediction that that property I sold was in 2019. And I told the agent, things are changing in the market, and Portland's, just down the road, Portland's is going to become a million rand suburb in the next year. Obviously, again, people laughed at me because they thought we were nuts. And I knew that if I sold that property, I would get a decent amount of money. And I even included the numbers. I sold that property for 475,000 rand. I spent a total of 62,000 rand on that property. And I made more than 275,000 rand profit in the property, 1 million. But apart from the money was good. It changed a whole lot of people's lives. But not only did I manage to make money, I also managed to change the economics of that particular area. Because now I've created a market where properties in that area can now sell for 475 or more. And today, part of my prediction that I had, Military Suburb, in Portland, you struggle to find a property for $1 million. And I'm going to make a prediction to you all now. Whether you believe it or not. But Portland, which is struggling to go through the 1.4 million barrier. I'm not going to tell you when it's going to happen. All I'm going to say is things are changing and it's coming. Okay? So I want to share with you why I say what I'm talking about. In 2021, after the first deal, I went on to do many films. I'm now literally doing the flip and flop. It's exciting, turning the so-called ugly houses, the problem houses, turning into beautiful homes, and bringing the right people to the areas through my property experts. I managed to employ, I managed to start another business, and up until today, we've created about between 155 to 170 short-term jobs. Property to me is more than just money. It's an avenue that can enrich not just yourself, but others as well. It can also impact the social economic conditions of an area, right? And that's why I'm so passionate about Richie's Claim. About a year ago, we completed a development in Northeast Land in Portland, and we built 3 houses on there. 3 families' lives, 3 families' lives are changed for the good. But now the big question that you should be asking yourself: why property? Property at this juncture is so underperforming in the sense of we need to provide in the next 20 years the population is going to grow by 1.75 million. Right? That is what stats will say is predicting for the next 20 years. 1.75 million additional households is going to grow the South African market. Currently, the private, together with the public sector, creates about 8 to 10,000 units per annum. In order for us to service that 1.75 million households over the next 20 years, we need to at least build around about 80,000 units per year. And unfortunately, the private sector and the public sector can't cope with that. So how are we going to make the change? The change sits in this room. If more and more of us start and decide to follow the journey of investing in property, it's more than just making money. It's about creating generational wealth, but also changing other people's lives. In 20 years, in 10, 15 years from now, your children are going to struggle to find good quality homes because of what's happening in the market. It's not government's fault. Government is trying to fill the void, but the void is becoming too big. And that is where you and I can make a difference by investing in property. So I have a slide here that speaks about, and you guys can go through this presentation later, the different levels of the property market. In the Western Cape, things are very, very different to the rest of South Africa. The entry market the entry market prices starts at about 0 to 350,000 rand. Right? That is your RTPs, your PNGs. At this juncture, people that got houses for free, RTPs are selling for between 350 to 450,000. That is often 1 or 2 bedroom homes. Very, very small properties. The affordable market was between 300 and 600,000 rand. Currently, we find very, very few properties between that medium, 300 and 600,000. The conventional market, that's between 600 and 900,000. At this particular point, these stats is not something that is thumbs up. This is facts based on research conducted by the Center for Housing in Africa. This stat was taken in 2021 because property prices in the affordable and conventional market has increased by more than 50%. If you don't believe me, open up Property 24 right now, and you will see the thing that we deem as affordable is no longer affordable. And what's going to happen to property prices? It's only going to increase. Therefore, it is critical for us to start getting involved in property so that we can make just not social economic changes, but create wealth for ourselves and for the kids to come. I wrote an opinion piece a few weeks ago for the weekend hours, and I shared my opinion why I think the cave flats is an ideal space for property investors and people that invest. Why it is important for them to come and invest in these areas. Over the last 30 years, we haven't seen much development happening here. And this particular community, or these communities, are screaming for better and more housing opportunities. Like I say, if you like the development, I did an example. I posted an ad for a building that's not even complete. There's no rooms. We just got from the foundation, and I said this is going to be up in 2024. I didn't need more people for rental, but that one post we had 225 comments. I received over 275 emails, people wanting accommodation. Remember, I bought 3 units, 275 people looking for housing opportunities. Because of our socio-economic standings, you're either too poor to qualify for an RPP because the lines, the waiting list is so long, or you earn too much to qualify for and to go on the waiting list, or to qualify for a government assistance, or to qualify for a bond, because now you're earning too much or too little. So now you have to ask yourself, where am I going to buy a house that's 350 to 600,000? Those properties are few and far between. And if you don't know, Tafelsig at this point in time, property sells for between 6 and 700,000 in Tafelsig. There's a property that sold for 830,000 rand in summer. In Tafelsig. So that already tells me that's a precursor of what is to come. Property prices in these areas is only going to skyrocket. And in my book, I share detailed things that not only of my journey, but I share in-depth research of what I've done, why I did it, and how I did it. So I hope that you guys are going to get a copy of my book. It's only, I sell it for 250 rand, but today I'm only going to sell it for 200 rand. So if you want to get a copy of my book, there's a swap machine there. But if there's any questions, please feel free to ask. Thank you. Any questions? Yeah.
As a property investor, what are some of the challenges, the hardest challenges that you faced, and how have you overcome them?
So quite a number of things spring to mind, but one barrier that I have, or that I had starting out, was finding the right to to do the actual work. I'm not an handyman, but as an investor, you need to have what we call a power team. And developing a power team in the beginning can prove quite challenging because sometimes you find the guy that works at the property works very inferior. Or they overcharge you, or they start something and then don't come. As an investor, your time and money, you learn quickly that time and money is a big factor.
And in terms of getting your properties that you mentioned, I've seen your YouTube videos as well, with regards to getting water and electricity to your properties, how long does it take for the city to supply those?
So again, good question. So getting utilities to your property, there's a quite a stringent process that you have to undergo. Once you go through the planning phase, you get to. All I'm going to say is it's quite expensive. It's quite expensive because the city or the municipalities are going to with what's called a developer's charge. And doing that particular property, we spent about 120,000 rand before we put the spade in the ground. That is just there's not even any connections. No, like I said, no spade was put in the ground. That is just getting things ready. So those are some of the challenges that you see.
Thank you.
Cool.
From what we're hearing and your story also says, we're hearing that you had a certain risk at the time. You said that is essential, and what gave rise to that?
So, again, good question. I think risk is a fundamental part of any investment. If you do not have an appetite for risk, it's going to be very challenging. There's a lot of fear that is behind. If you struggle, or if you below 200,000 and 200,000 was your maximum, if the bank repos your property, you're going to lose for the next 30 years because we go back to blacklist. You need to, for me, I love the risk factor because I knew my education mitigated a lot of the risk factors that I saw. And my father was a tax collector. He was an entrepreneur. I had a few uncles who were entrepreneurs. And I think the risk factor was something that I love getting into risk, but taking calculated risk. So that's something that we do. Yeah.
I see you mentioned your education I know
Yeah. So I have a degree in PR communications. So I do media work. That's my 9 to 5. So starting again this year. So I'm doing a business thing this year at UCD. So I don't have a full property qualification, but through my hard work, determination, and discipline, I taught myself everything that I need to know, and I'm obviously still learning. But that's my.
Darren, thank you. That's inspirational. Can I ask you, how did you go about acquiring your dilapidated houses? How did you get hold of these houses? And obviously you want to flip, you need to find these houses. Where do you go? How do you get?
Good question. Some people have asked me for the source, but I'm going to give it to you. So it's literally just knowing the community. Driving around, networking. I say network is your network. And networking with people, and obviously seeing certain things. I've bought a few properties off Property 24, but then I will share with you how I see those things. But it's knowing my market trends, knowing my market analysis, knowing why I'm doing what I'm doing.
So was it something like just going to these people and making offer to them? Is it like that?
If I see a property is there, there's certain tools that I have at my disposal that I can see who the owners are, and then I will make contact with them and make them an offer.
So did you get a lot of houses like that? By just acquiring a company with the owners prepared to sell, to give them a amount that they want to use?
There's a few, like that I got. I always try to be fair to the people. At the end of the day, I need to make money, and they need to make money. But just be cautious. Sometimes people don't like you coming to them and asking them about the property. So there's a lot of things that you need to think of and know how to.
You need to build up a contact with the banks as well. You can they inform you as to houses that's
They shouldn't be doing that. They shouldn't be doing that, but yeah.
saying they shouldn't.
That's not, they shouldn't. But some banks, some people in the banks, tell me. But I stay away from those. Any
What other advice would you give for a first-time property investor?
education. Sit down with if I look back as to what it is that I wanted to do, if I could get a clarity in my life for someone that I knew that had more information than I had, I would sit down, pay the money to get the knowledge from that person. To cut certain, not corners, but to shorten your success.
I would like to find out, in terms of finance, people who start myself, start a certain property, but in terms of we are using that we need to have money to start this, and I think that these are the strategies most people to start this journey. So what are some of the resources or programs that you can also in terms of the help with finance? I know you have a bank and that's what
So I worked on my finances, the way I can cut myself in terms of the bank. Fortunately, depending on which side of the person, I never had other people's money. It's literally just through the stuff that I've done. But there are many ways that you can get involved in property. It doesn't mean that you as an individual must buy that property. If you know people that have similar interests, similar mindsets, that once we create wealth, you are able to bring those people together and form a partnership to get involved in property investing. So there are many ways that you can get involved. But if you want, you can have a conversation afterwards and share with us.
in terms of the reason before you start, people who require what is the kind of cost in terms of how can you join this type of company?
So I try and keep my cost as low as possible. So I charge 550 rand an hour, where I do a more structured, obviously, but there's some all over the place. But with every session, we sit down, we have coffee, and I literally tailor a training module for you. We gauge where you want to be, and then in between, I work out how we're going to get you there. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for giving me your ears and why you must get involved in property. So please, I want to see you out there making those changes and buying up. Thank you.